Hello, everyone. I wanted to send out a video just talking about what books we'll actually be reading for the course. Yesterday, I didn't want to spend time just talking about things. I wanted to get right into it, and that was kind of sending a message that this course is really about the texts that we'll be reading. It's about the readings, it's about these books. But I thought you might want to have some sense, from my point of view, about why we're reading the books that we're reading. Here's the list. They're all uploaded to the Canvas site. There is no book to buy for this course. So all the readings are here. And it is quite a list. Intellectual heritage has a long history at Temple. And if you read the course description in the syllabus, you'll see my take on it. It's gone through many changes, many different approaches, but it's always been about reading and talking. It's always been about the reading of texts and the discussion between human beings, us, about what we think of them. And the idea is that these books are important. Not this particular list, but the reading of texts, of difficult texts, and thinking about them, talking with others about them, and writing about them is an important part of your education. So if we look at the list of texts here, I want to be open. There's four that are required. That is, the Intellectual Heritage Department requires all teachers to teach these four texts in IH 51, and those are the Tao Te Ching, the Epic of Gilgamesh, Octavia Butler's The Parable of the Sower, and Wang's The Collected Schizophrenias. Those are the required texts. Everything else is part of the open thing for a teacher. They can teach whatever they want, sort of fill in the gaps. And those are that I've added: Aeschylus's Prometheus Bound, Plato's Symposium, Pope's Essay on Man, Voltaire's Candide, and Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. Briefly describe each one of these. We started reading the Tao Te Ching, which is an ancient Chinese classical work of, well, whatever it is, philosophy, religion, I'm not really sure. We got a taste of it yesterday, and we'll continue to look at it. It's from about, I believe, about 300 BC. And it's a profound and perplexing text, as we know. It's not the easiest thing to really wrap your mind around. It's a very counterintuitive, or maybe not so counterintuitive, but different sort of way of looking at the world, and a world classic. The Epic of Gilgamesh is a story about Gilgamesh, who was an ancient Sumerian king. It's a very interesting text, especially because of its history as a text. It was written, or it was one of the, it wasn't written by any particular person. It was the central epic text of several cultures in Sumeria, which is the sort of Near East, Middle East, Iraq, um, Lebanon, Afghanistan, that sort of area of the world. It was written in ancient Akkadian, which is a lost language, was dug up by some Europeans in the 19th century, and they had to sort of, in an unknown language, because the language had not been used or spoken for 2,000 years. So the story of its cracking the code of its language is itself a kind of an epic. But it's the epic story of a hero. And since it was dug up and translated in the late 19th century, it's become a central sort of mythological epic text. Great text. Aeschylus, Prometheus Bound, the story of Prometheus, the god who brought fire to human beings and was punished for it, by Aeschylus, the great Greek um, playwright, poet in the 5th century BC. And then another Greek, Plato, of course, about 100 years later or so, wrote the Symposium, the great dialogue on love and beauty and everything else associated with that. Well, great epic, or not epic, I mean, a great text, collection really of speeches at a drinking party that Socrates, Plato's mentor, attends. Great, great text. Pope's Essay on Man, we're sort of jumping ahead about 2,000 years here, written in the 1700s. Alexander Pope, maybe the greatest English language poet of the 1700s, of the 18th century. The Essay on Man is a long philosophical poem about the place of human beings in nature and the universe, one of the great poetic achievements in the English language. And the idea is that we do live in, you might say, the best possible world, and because God made it, and we have to understand our place in it. Everything has its place in the great chain of being. Voltaire's Candide is a satirical novel, I guess you call it, is really one long making fun of that idea that we live in the best of all possible worlds, because everything horrible that can happen to people happens to Candide and his friends, and it's just a really funny and awful thing. Wonderful book. Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, great Nigerian novelist. Achebe wrote, I think it was written around 1958. It's one of the landmark post-war African novels about the story of a man in conflict with the colonial, I don't know what you call them, Europeans who began to colonize this part of the world. Tragic novel, really a landmark novel, and Achebe, one of the great post-war novelists in the world. And then we move to Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. This is a science fiction novel written in the 1990s. Butler's reputation as an author has grown considerably since her death, which I think was around 2010. And finally, Esme Wei-Jun-Wang's The Collected Schizophrenia. She's a contemporary writer who has mental illness, some degree of schizophrenia, and wrote a collection of essays about her experience and her illness. So it's a very heterogeneous, mixed bunch of texts, but really interesting, I would say, at least interesting to me, things that I want to read and discuss with you. So I want to give you some sense of what we will be reading, what you have to look forward to in this class. Again, if you ever want to talk about it or have any questions about the class, feel free to contact me.